The morning sun cast long shadows across the broken landscape of Kepler 442c as Hyunwoo Kim adjusted his toolkit one more time. The mining colony had been dead for over 2 centuries, but the salvage crews still found valuable tech buried in its ruins. Today felt different, though. The air seemed to hum with an energy that made his skin tingle. "Another day in paradise," muttered his partner Jin-A, as she kicked at a piece of twisted metal. Her scanner beeped steadily as they walked deeper into what used to be the colony's main district. The buildings here were strange mixtures of human architecture and something else. Something older. Hyunwoo stopped walking. His experienced eye caught something the others had missed. Between 2 collapsed structures, there was a gap that led underground. The opening was perfectly round and smooth, carved with patterns that definitely weren't human work. "Hey, Jinny, come look at this!" he called out. His voice echoed strangely in the narrow space. Jin-A jogged over, her boots crunching on the debris-covered ground. "What did you find now? Another broken mining bot?" "No, this is different. Look at those carvings." Hyunwoo pointed to the symbols, carved deep into the stone around the opening. They spiraled inward like a maze, but there was something intentional about their design, something that spoke of intelligence and purpose. The team's archaeologist, Dr. Bom Yi, came running when they called her. Her excitement was immediate and infectious. "These aren't human symbols," she said, running her fingers along the carved lines. "They're much older, pre-colonial, maybe even pre-human contact with this system." Captain So-jin's voice crackled through their comm units. "What's the situation down there? Your signals are getting weird readings." "We found some kind of underground structure," Hyunwoo reported. "Requesting permission to investigate." There was a long pause. "Approved, but stay in contact. If anything seems dangerous, you get out immediately." The tunnel sloped downward at a gentle angle, lit by their helmet lights. The walls were made of the same carved stone, but as they went deeper, Hyunwoo noticed the patterns becoming more complex, more urgent somehow. The air grew warmer instead of cooler, which didn't make sense. "The energy readings are off the charts," Jin-A whispered. Her scanner was beeping so fast, it almost sounded like a continuous tone. "Whatever's down, here is still active." After what felt like an hour of walking, the tunnel opened into a massive chamber. Hyunwoo's breath caught in his throat. The room was circular and huge, easily 50 meters across. The ceiling rose high above them, disappearing into darkness. But what held his attention was the center of the room, a crystal formation the size of a small building pulsed with pale blue light. The light seemed to breathe, growing brighter and dimmer in a steady rhythm. Inside the crystal, barely visible through its cloudy surface, was a shape. A large shape that looked almost like... "Is that a person in there?" Jin-A asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Bom Yi was already setting up her equipment, her hands shaking with excitement. "The crystal formation appears to be artificial. Some kind of containment system. And yes, there's definitely something alive inside." Hyunwoo moved closer, ignoring the way his skin prickled from the energy radiating from the crystal. As his eyes adjusted to the strange light, the shape inside became clearer. It was definitely alive, and definitely not human. The creature was large, maybe 3 meters tall, with what looked like scales covering its body. It had 4 limbs, but they were arranged more like arms than legs. Most striking were the wing-like appendages folded against its back. "It's some kind of dragon," he said softly. As if responding to his words, the creature's eyes suddenly opened. They glowed with the same blue light as the crystal, but warmer somehow, more alive. The dragon's head turned toward them, and Hyunwoo felt something touch his mind. Pain, loneliness, anger. But underneath it all, a desperate hope. The voice that spoke in his thoughts was clearly female, though tinged with exhaustion. "You are not Velkari." What are you? Hyunwoo jumped back, nearly knocking into Jin-A. Did anyone else hear that? Jin-A and Dr. Bomyi looked at him with concern. Hear what? Dr. Bomyi asked. The dragon's eyes focused directly on Hyunwoo. You can hear me, small one. That is interesting. I am Nari of the Velkari. I have been imprisoned here for 160 of your years. 160 years? Hyunwoo spoke aloud, causing his team members to look at him strangely. Crime was believing that different species could work together. My own people saw this as betrayal. They bound me here to slowly drain my life force as punishment. Hyunwoo studied the crystal prison more carefully. Now he could see what he had missed before. Metal bands wrapped around the crystal, pulsing with the same energy. But these weren't decorative. They were restraints, high-tech shackles that were slowly killing whatever was inside. This is wrong, he said, both aloud and in his thoughts. The dragon, Nari, seemed surprised by his response. You would help me? But you do not know me. I could be dangerous. Maybe, Hyunwoo admitted, walking around the crystal to examine the binding mechanisms. His mechanic's eye was already analyzing the technology. But keeping someone prisoner for 160 years because they believed in cooperation? That's definitely wrong. Jin-A grabbed his arm. Hyunwoo, who are you talking to? You're starting to worry us. He looked at his teammate, then back at the imprisoned dragon. Her name is Nari. She's been trapped in there for over a century, and I think I can get her out. Dr. Bomyi's scanner started beeping wildly. Hyunwoo, the energy levels are spiking. Whatever you're thinking of doing, it could be dangerous. Everything worthwhile is dangerous, he replied, pulling tools from his kit. The binding mechanism was complex, but it followed logical principles. Energy flowed in specific patterns, contained by magnetic fields and quantum locks. It would take time to disable safely, but it could be done. Nari's voice came again in his mind, softer now. Why would you risk this for a stranger? Hyunwoo smiled as he began working on the first energy coupling. Because that's what people do. We help each other. That shouldn't be a crime anywhere in the galaxy. For the first time in 160 years, Nari felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The cargo bay of the new Soul had been transformed overnight. What was once a storage area for salvage equipment now held the most unusual passenger the ship had ever carried. Nari lay on a specially constructed platform that Hyunwoo and engineer Junho Lee had built from salvaged materials and ship components. Captain Sojin Park stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching the dragon with a mixture of curiosity and concern. I still can't believe I let you talk me into this, Hyunwoo. She would have died in that crystal prison, Hyunwoo replied, adjusting the environmental controls he had rigged around Nari's resting area. The energy bindings were slowly draining her life force. Another few months and she would have been gone. Nari opened one large eye, the blue glow dimmer now but steadier than it had been in the ruins. Your captain is wise to be cautious. Her voice spoke directly into their minds. My people are not known for their friendship with other species. Captain Sojin jumped slightly. She was still getting used to the telepathic communication. Right. That's what I'm worried about. What exactly are your people going to do when they find out we freed you? The dragon's head lifted from the platform, and for a moment her full size became apparent. Even lying down, she was impressive. Her scales shifted color slightly in the artificial light, from deep blue to hints of silver and green. They will hunt me, and anyone who helped me. Medic Ha-Young Choi entered the cargo bay carrying her medical scanner and a concerned expression. Her vital signs are still weak, but they're improving. Whatever those binding devices were doing to her, the effects are slowly reversing. Tell us about your people, Hyunwoo said, sitting cross-legged on the floor near Nari's platform. Help us understand what we're dealing with. Nari's eyes focused on something far away, remembering. The Velkari were once explorers. We traveled between stars, learning from other species, sharing knowledge. We believed that diversity made us all stronger. Her voice grew sadder as she continued. But that changed. About 300 years ago, a group of warriors took control of our government. They taught that Velkari were superior to all other life forms, that cooperation with lesser species was weakness. And you disagreed with this? Captain So-Jin asked. I did more than disagree. I openly argued against it. When human colonies began appearing in this sector, I studied your species. I was fascinated by your ability to work together despite your differences. Humans seemed to prove everything I believed about cooperation. Junho looked up from the environmental controls he was adjusting. So what happened? Why did they imprison you? Nari's scales darkened slightly, a sign of strong emotion. I proposed an alliance between Velkari and humans. I believed we could learn from each other, become stronger together. The ruling council saw this as the ultimate betrayal. They used the ancient binding ritual on me. It was meant to be a slow execution, a warning to others who might have similar ideas. They wanted me to suffer for generations as an example. Ha Young ran her scanner over Nari again, frowning at the readings. These energy patterns in your body are incredibly complex. How exactly do your people create telepathic links? All Velkari can communicate mind to mind with our own species, Nari explained. But humans are different. Most of your kind cannot hear us at all. Some, like Yunwu, seem to have a natural ability to connect. Yunwu felt a warm sensation in his mind as Nari focused her attention on him. There is something about your thought patterns that resonates with ours. It is quite rare. Can you show us your natural abilities? Captain So-Jin asked. If we're going to protect you, we need to know what you're capable of. Nari slowly rose from the platform, her movements careful but graceful. As she stood, her full height became apparent. She was nearly 4 meters tall, her wing-like appendages spreading slightly for balance. I should warn you that I am still weak from my imprisonment. She extended one clawed hand toward a piece of scrap metal lying nearby. The metal began to glow with heat, then slowly changed shape, flowing like liquid until it formed a perfect sphere. Velkari have natural control over energy and matter. We can manipulate metals, generate heat and electricity, even change our physical form to some degree. That's incredible, Junho breathed, staring at the perfectly smooth metal sphere. My prime, I could have shaped an entire starship hull with my abilities, but centuries of energy drain have left me much weaker. Hyun-woo stood up, an idea forming in his mind. What if we could help you recover your strength? Human technology might be able to supplement your natural abilities. You would do this? Nari asked, surprise evident in her mental voice. Why not? You've already taught us about energy manipulation just by demonstrating it. Maybe we can combine human engineering with Velkari abilities. Captain So-Jin's comm unit suddenly chirped with an urgent message. Her face went pale as she read it. Long-range sensors are picking up unknown ships entering the system. They're not responding to standard hails. Nari's scales immediately shifted to a darker, more metallic color. They have found me. The Velkari fleet moves faster than I expected. How many ships? Hyun-woo asked, already thinking about their options. If they sent a hunting party, it will be at least 10 vessels. Velkari warships are heavily armed and extremely fast, Nari said, her mental voice tense with worry. Junho was already heading for the door. I need to get to the engine room. If we're going to run, we'll need every bit of speed this old ship can manage. Wait, Nari called out. There might be another way. If you're willing to trust me completely, I can teach you to modify your ship's systems with Velkari techniques. But it would require direct mental connection between us. Hyun-woo didn't hesitate. What do you need me to do? The process is dangerous for humans. Your minds are not naturally equipped for the kind of information transfer required. Captain So-Jin grabbed Hyun-woo's arm. This is crazy. We barely know her. She's been imprisoned for 160 years for believing in cooperation, Hyunwoo replied. If we don't trust her now, when will we ever trust anyone? Nari lowered her head until she was at eye level with Hyunwoo. Place your hand on my forehead and open your mind completely. I will share everything I know about Velkari technology. As Hyunwoo reached out, the ship's alarms began blaring. Captain Sojin's voice came over the intercom. All hands to stations. We have multiple bogies approaching fast. This is not a drill. Hyunwoo's hand touched Nari's scales, and suddenly his mind filled with knowledge of technologies beyond human understanding. The sensation was overwhelming, but also exhilarating. For the first time since her rescue, Nari smiled. Now we fight back, she said. Bo-Ra stared at the energy readings on her screen in disbelief. The blue holographic display showed wave patterns she had only seen in classified coalition files. Ryujin technology. Her hands trembled as she cross-referenced the location data. With her brother's last known position, the numbers matched perfectly. No, 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 she whispered to herself in the empty intelligence office aboard Coalition Space Station Harmony 7. The massive station hummed around her with the constant noise of 10,000 people going about their daily lives. None of them knew what she had just discovered. Her brother Tae-min was harboring an alien. Not just any alien, but a Ryujin. The dragon-like species that everyone believed was extinct. The same species that coalition scientists had been desperately trying to study for decades. Bo-Ra pulled up Tae-min's communication logs. His last message had been 3 days ago, a simple, "Everything fine out here, sis? Found some good salvage." She had thought nothing of it at the time. Her little brother was always finding interesting scrap metal and old ship parts in the asteroid fields. But this was different. This was dangerous. She activated her secure communication channel and sent an encrypted message to Tae-min. Little brother, we need to talk. Now. Private Channel 7. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, his face appeared on her screen. He looked tired, but there was something else in his eyes. A kind of peace she had never seen before. Hey, Bo-Ra, what's going on? Tae-min, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Are you alone on your ship? She watched his face carefully. There it was. The slight pause. The way his eyes shifted just a little to the left. He was lying before. He even spoke. Of course I'm alone. You know I work solo. The energy signatures, Tae-min. I'm seeing Ryujin technology emanating from your position. That's impossible unless... She let the sentence hang in the air. Tae-min was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. Bo-Ra, if I tell you something, do you promise to hear me out completely before you do anything? Her heart sank. Oh, Tae-min, what have you done? I found someone. She was trapped, Bo-Ra. Bound in energy chains for over 160 years. Her own people did this to her because she refused to fight in their wars. She's not dangerous. She's gentle and kind, and she's been teaching me things about the universe that I never imagined. Bo-Ra closed her eyes. Her brother, always the one to help injured animals as a child, had found something much bigger than a stray cat this time. Tae-min, do you understand what this means? Admiral Kyung-soo has been waiting for something like this his entire career. The moment he finds out about your dragon friend, he'll mobilize half the fleet to capture her. She's not my dragon friend, Tae-min said quietly. Her name is Hai-Wan, and she's not something to be captured. Before Bo-Ra could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors outside. Her office. Her communication screens split to show incoming priority messages from multiple departments. The first message made her blood turn cold. All senior intelligence officers report to Admiral Kyung-soo immediately. Possible first contact. Situation identified. The second message was worse. Long-range sensors have detected multiple unknown vessels approaching from the outer rim. Estimated arrival time 6 hours. Bo-Ra looked back at Taemin's concerned face on her screen. Little brother, we have a very big problem. It's not just our people who are coming for Haiwan. Taemin's expression shifted from confusion to understanding, to fear in the space of seconds. The Ryujin. They found her. It looks that way. Taemin, you need to get out of there right now. Take Haiwan and run as far and as fast as you can. Where can we go? They'll track us no matter where we hide. Bo-Ra thought quickly. Her years of intelligence training kicked in. New Busan Station. It's neutral territory. Neither coalition nor alien forces can legally operate there without permission from the Trade Council. You might be able to buy some time. What about you? Won't you get in trouble for helping me? Let me worry about that. Bo-Ra began transferring files to a secure data pad. I'm sending you everything I have on Admiral Kyung-soo's search protocols and some old smuggling routes that might help. You avoid the main shipping lanes. As she worked, she could hear the station's internal communication system crackling to life. Admiral Kyung-soo's voice echoed through the corridors. All personnel, this is Admiral Kyung-soo. We have confirmed the existence of a living Ryujin specimen. This represents the greatest scientific and military opportunity in coalition history. All available ships are to prepare for immediate deployment to Sector 779. Taemin's face went pale. Bo-Ra, he called Haiwan a specimen. No, that's why you need to leave now. She finished the file transfer and looked directly into her brother's eyes through the screen. Taemin, I want you to know that I believe you. If you say she's good, then she's good. But there are people in the coalition who won't see it that way. Will I see you again? I don't know. But I'm going to do everything I can to help you from here. Maybe I can slow down the Admiral's task force or feed them false information about your location. In the background of Taemin's transmission, Bo-Ra caught a glimpse of movement. Something large and graceful passed by the camera's field of view. Even in that brief moment, she could see the intelligence in those ancient eyes, the careful way. The creature moved to avoid being seen. Haiwan was listening to their conversation. She was protecting Taemin by staying hidden, even from his own sister. Take care of each other, Bo-Ra said softly. And Taemin, tell Haiwan that not all humans are like Admiral Kyung-soo. Some of us still believe that different doesn't mean dangerous. The connection ended just as her office door burst open. 3 coalition security officers stood in the doorway. Officer Bo-Ra Park, you're to come with us immediately. Admiral's orders. As they escorted her through the station's corridors, Bo-Ra caught glimpses through the massive windows of space outside. In the distance, she could see the dark shapes of approaching vessels. They moved in formation, sleek and organic-looking. Unlike any human ship design, the Ryujin were coming for their lost daughter, and Admiral Kyung-soo was preparing to meet them with weapons drawn. Somewhere between those two forces, her little brother was flying through space with the most important person in the galaxy. A dragon who had been punished for choosing peace over war, who was now about to become the center of a conflict that could determine the future of both species. Bo-Ra whispered a prayer to whatever forces might be listening. Keep them safe. Please, keep them both safe. The hunt had begun. New Busan Station hung in space like a glittering jewel against the black void. The massive trading hub was home to merchants, smugglers, refugees, and anyone else who needed a place where no government could easily reach them. Taemin guided, his ship's Steel Lotus through the busy traffic lanes, trying to look like just another trader coming to do business. Beside him in the co-pilot seat, Haiwan watched the station grow larger through the viewport. Her golden eyes reflected the lights of hundreds of ships moving around the structure. She had been quiet during their 3-day journey, spending most of her time learning about human technology and sharing small bits of Ryujin knowledge with Taemin. It's beautiful, she said in her careful, accented human speech. So many different species working together. Taemin smiled despite his worry. That's the idea behind neutral space. Everyone gets along because they have to if they want to trade. They docked at a mid-level port that cost more than Taemin would normally pay, but he needed a berth where his ship's modified energy signature might not attract attention. The docking supervisor was a blue-skinned Altarian who barely looked up from her datapad as she processed their arrival. "Duration of stay?" she asked in bored tones. 3 days maximum," Taemin replied. "Cargo declaration, personal effects, and spare parts." The supervisor stamped their docking permit without even scanning their ship. Taemin had been right about New Busan. Nobody asked too many questions here as long as you paid your fees. Haewon had used her shape-changing abilities to appear more human, though she kept her unusual height and the slight luminescence in her skin. To anyone who didn't look too closely, she seemed like just another exotic alien species among the dozens that called the station home. They made their way through the crowded corridors toward the merchant quarter. Taemin hoped to find passage. On a cargo ship heading toward the outer rim, somewhere they could disappear while figuring out their next move. That's when they met Captain Yu Jin. She approached them at a cantina called the Stellar Rest. A woman in her 40s with short black hair and the confident walk of someone who had been flying dangerous routes for most of her adult life. Her ship jacket bore patches from a dozen different systems, and her eyes missed nothing as she sized up Taemin and Haewon. "You two look like people who need to be somewhere else in a hurry," she said, sliding into their booth without invitation. Taemin tensed. "I don't know what you mean." Yujin smiled and pulled out a small scanner. "This little device picks up energy signatures from about 50 different alien technologies. Right now, it's practically screaming about your tall friend here." She nodded toward Haewon. "Ryujin Biotech. Unless I miss my guess?" Haewon started to stand, but Yujin held up a hand. "Relax. I'm not interested in turning anyone into the authorities. I'm interested in making money." "What do you want?" Taemin asked. "I want to know how you modified your ship's drive system to work with Ryujin technology. That kind of hybrid system could revolutionize space travel. The right buyer would pay millions of credits for those specifications." Before Taemin could answer, the cantina's lights suddenly dimmed and emergency warnings began flashing. The station's communication system crackled to life. "All civilians report to emergency shelters immediately. Multiple unidentified warships have entered station space. This is not a drill." Through the cantina's large windows, Taemin could see sleek ships, unlike anything in human space approaching the station. They moved with organic grace, their hulls seeming to pulse with inner light. Ryujin vessels. At the same time, from the opposite direction, a formation of gray coalition warships dropped out of hyperspace. Admiral Kyung-soo had found them. "Well," Yujin said calmly as panic erupted around them. "This just got a lot more interesting." The station shuddered as weapons fire erupted between the two fleets, but neither side was firing at New Busan itself. They were fighting each other with the station caught in the middle. "We need to get out of here," Taemin said, grabbing Haewon's hand. Yujin stood with them. "My ship is faster than yours and I know routes the military doesn't, but I want those drive specifications in exchange for passage." A massive explosion lit up space outside the cantina windows. One of the coalition ships had taken a direct hit from what looked like a beam of concentrated energy. The Ryujin weapons were far more advanced than human technology. Haewon suddenly went rigid, her eyes unfocused. "They're here," she whispered. "The hunters. They're broadcasting on the old frequencies, calling me traitor, demanding I return for punishment." "What hunters?" Taemin asked. "My people's military caste. They never forgave those of us who refused to participate in the old wars." Her voice grew stronger, more determined. "They think strength comes from conquest. They're wrong." The station shook again as another explosion rocked space nearby. Through the chaos, Taemin could see civilian ships trying to flee in all directions. while the two military forces continued their battle. That's when everything changed. Stray energy bolt from the Ryujin fleet struck a passenger liner trying to evacuate from the station. The ship's hull cracked open, spilling atmosphere and people into the vacuum of space. Dozens of beings from multiple species floated helplessly, their emergency suits keeping them alive for only minutes. Without hesitation, HFY shed her human disguise. Her true form was magnificent. Scales like liquid starlight covered her serpentine body as she grew to her full size. Wings that seemed to be made of condensed energy unfolded from her back. "What are you doing?" Taemin shouted over the noise of the continuing battle. "What I should have done long ago," HFY replied, her voice now carrying harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. "Showing them what real strength looks like." She moved through the cantina's emergency airlock and into space with impossible grace. Taemin and Yujin watched in amazement as she flew directly toward the damaged passenger liner, gathering the scattered survivors in fields of protective energy and carrying them to safety aboard other ships. But her rescue efforts had attracted attention. Several Ryujin hunter-killers broke off from the main battle and began pursuing her, their ships firing bolt after bolt of deadly energy. HFY dodged with aerial maneuvers no mechanical ship could match, but she was outnumbered. One of the energy bolts grazed her wing, sending her spinning toward the station's hull. "I have to help her," Taemin said, already running toward the docking bay where his ship waited. Yujin followed. "This is crazy. We're just going to get ourselves killed." "Then why are you coming with me?" Yujin grinned as they reached the Steel Lotus. "Because crazy pays better than safe." As they launched from the docking bay, Taemin activated all the modifications HFY had helped him install. The ship responded like a living thing, its hybrid human Ryujin systems giving it speed and maneuverability far beyond its original design. They flew toward the battle, one small ship against an entire fleet, ready to stand beside a dragon who had chosen to save lives rather than take them. The real fight was just beginning. The ancient temple on Kaemyung looked like it had grown from the planet's red stone, rather than being built by hands. Crystalline spires reached toward the purple sky, their surfaces covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. Taemin felt a strange sense of recognition as he walked beside HFY through the temple's corridors, as if he had been here before in dreams. They had escaped from New Busan Station with Captain Yujin's help, but the cost had been high. HFY was injured from the battle, her left wing bearing scorch marks from Ryujin hunter weapons. More importantly, they now knew that both human and Ryujin forces were actively hunting them across the galaxy. "The elders are waiting," HFY said softly as they approached a vast chamber at the temple's heart. "They have been watching the stars, waiting for someone like you to arrive." "Someone like me?" Taemin asked. "I'm just a mechanic." HFY smiled, her golden eyes warm despite her pain. "You are much more than that, Taemin Park. You will understand soon." The chamber they entered was breathtaking. The ceiling soared hundreds of feet above them, supported by pillars that looked like frozen waterfalls of light. In the center of the space, an elderly Ryujin waited for them. Her scales had faded to silver with age, but her presence filled the entire chamber with quiet authority. "Welcome, young human," she said in perfect, unaccented human speech. "I am Sujin, keeper of the true histories. HFY has told me much about you through our mental link." Taemin looked around the chamber and realized they were not alone. Perhaps 24 other Ryujin sat in meditation poses around the room's edges. All of them had the same peaceful expression he had come to associate with HFY. "These are the exiles," Sujin explained. "We are the Ryujin who refuse to follow the tribunal's path of endless war. For this, we were cast out from our homeworlds, branded as traitors and weaklings." "But you're not weak," Taemin said, thinking of how HFY had single-handedly saved dozens of beings at New Busan Station. "I've seen what HFY can do." Strength and violence are not the same thing, Sujin replied. This is a lesson the tribunal has forgotten, but one that your species seems to understand instinctively. The elder gestured, and the air above them filled with holographic images. Taemin gasped as he saw scenes from Earth's ancient past. Humans and dragons flying together through blue skies, cities where both species lived in harmony. This cannot be real, Taemin whispered. Your planet was one of our first colonies, long before your species developed civilization. We were guardians then, protectors of young worlds and the life they contained. Some of my people chose to remain on Earth even after the Great Diaspora, living alongside your ancestors. The images shifted to show dragons teaching humans to work metal, to build with stone, to understand the movements of stars. Your mythology remembers us, though the details have become confused over millennia. We were not your masters, but your partners in building a better galaxy. HFY moved to stand beside Taemin. This is why the ship's technology felt familiar to you, why you understood the energy patterns so quickly. Your species carries genetic memories of our time together. Sujin nodded. The tribunal tried to erase this history when they seized power 3,000 years ago. They rewrote our culture, claiming that dragons were meant to rule through fear rather than guide through wisdom. Any Ryujin who opposed them was declared enemy of the state. But why tell me this? Taemin asked. What can one human mechanic do against an entire galactic empire? Before Sujin could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the temple. The peaceful meditation of the exile community was broken as dragons rose to their feet, their expressions shifting from calm to concerned. A young Ryujin burst into the chamber, his scales still smoking from recent combat. Elder Sujin, the tribunal fleet has found us. Warlord Kazuki leads them personally. They will be here within the hour. Through the temple's crystal windows, Taemin could see dark shapes moving against the star field. Dozens of Ryujin warships, their bioorganic hulls pulsing with weapon energy. Behind them came even more ships, sleek coalition vessels that Taemin recognized from military broadcasts. Bora, he whispered, recognizing his sister's intelligence ship among the human fleet. Sujin placed a gentle claw on Taemin's shoulder. Your sister has been working to prevent this confrontation, but there are forces in both our peoples that prefer war to understanding. What do we do? HFY asked, moving to the chamber's main window. If we fight, innocent beings will die. If we surrender, the tribunal will execute us all as examples. There is a third option, Sujin said quietly, but it requires great courage from both our species. She led them deeper into the temple, to a chamber filled with ancient technology that hummed with barely contained energy. At its center stood a communication array unlike anything Taemin had ever seen, its crystalline components reaching toward the ceiling like a metallic tree. This is a galaxy-wide broadcast system, built in the days when Ryujin served as peacekeepers, rather than conquerors. It has been dormant for 3 millennia, waiting for the right moment to reveal the truth. What truth? Taemin asked. That the tribunal's rule is built on lies. That most Ryujin never wanted the endless wars they have waged in our name. That there is another way forward, one based on the ancient partnership between our peoples. HFY stepped forward. If we activate this system, every Ryujin in the galaxy will hear our message. But so will the tribunal. They will do everything in their power to stop us. And the coalition will think it's some kind of alien weapon, Taemin added. They'll try to destroy it before we can use it. Sujin smiled sadly. Yes, that is why. This task cannot be accomplished by Ryujin alone. It requires someone the human fleet might trust. Someone who can speak for your species as HFY speaks for ours. Taemin looked at the communication array, then at HFY's hopeful face. Outside, the enemy fleets were growing larger by the minute. Soon this ancient sanctuary would become a battleground. But maybe, just maybe, it could become something else. Instead, a place where 2 species chose understanding over fear, cooperation over conquest, "Tell me what I need to do," he said. As Sujin began explaining the broadcast system's controls, explosions echoed across the temple's outer walls. The battle for the truth about human and Ryujin history was about to begin, and at its center stood a mechanic and a dragon, preparing to risk everything for the chance that love could prove stronger than hatred. Earth hung before them like a blue marble against the star field, beautiful and fragile in the light of Sul. Tae-min had never seen his home planet from space before, and the sight took his breath away. Beside him in the modified steel lotus, Hae-won watched with equal wonder as they approached humanity's birth world. "It's exactly as I remembered from the old records," she said softly. "Still the same blue oceans, the same white clouds. Time has been kind to your world." Behind them flew a fleet unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Ryujin bioships flew in formation alongside human vessels, their crews working together for the first time in 3,000 years. The broadcast from Kaemyeong Temple had changed everything, revealing the truth about their shared history to billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. But Warlord Kazuki had not given up easily. Even now, his remaining loyal forces were converging on Earth, determined to destroy what they saw as a corruption of Ryujin purity. Admiral Kyungsu's coalition fleet moved to intercept them, but everyone knew the real battle would be fought by individuals, not ships. "Incoming transmission from Coalition Command," Dal announced through the ship's speakers. Bora's face appeared on the main screen, but she was not alone. A tall Ryujin with silver scales stood beside her, and Tae-min recognized him as one of the exiles who had joined their cause. "Little brother," Bora said with a tired smile, "you've certainly made things interesting. Half the galaxy is talking." "About your broadcast. What's the situation?" Tae-min asked. "Kazuki broke through our outer perimeter about an hour ago. He's heading directly for Earth with 12 biocruisers and what looks like a planet-killer weapon. He's threatened to demonstrate what happens to worlds that harbor traitors." Hae-won's expression hardened. "He means it. Kazuki destroyed 3 systems during the last rebellion attempt. He sees mercy as weakness." "We have good news, though," the silver-scaled Ryujin beside Bora said. "My name is Jin Ho, and I speak for the Ryujin Liberation Fleet. Over 60% of our people have declared independence from the tribunal. Kazuki's forces are now outnumbered 3-1. But his remaining ships are still the most powerful in the galaxy," Hae-won replied. "Numbers mean nothing if he reaches Earth's surface." Tae-min studied the tactical display showing ship positions throughout the solar system. Kazuki was driving straight through the middle of the defensive formations, ignoring the smaller battles. Around him, his target was clear. He's not trying to win a military victory, Tae-min realized. He's trying to prove a point. If he can destroy Earth, he thinks it will show that cooperation between species leads to weakness. "Then we stop him," Hae-won said simply. The communication ended, and Tae-min turned to look at his dragon companion. Over the past months, she had become so much more than the scared, injured being he had found in that crashed ship. She had become his partner, his teacher, and his closest friend. "Hae-won, you don't have to do this. We could run. Find somewhere in the outer rim where no one would follow us." She smiled at him with those ancient golden eyes. "Tae-min Park, you freed me from chains that bound my body. Now let me free both. Our peoples from the chains that bind their hearts." Space around them erupted into battle as Kazuki's fleet engaged the combined human Ryujin defenders. Energy weapons created aurora displays across the void while fighters danced between capital ships in deadly spirals. But Tae-min and Hae-won flew through it all, their hybrid ship weaving between the larger vessels like a leaf on the wind. The modifications Hae-won had made to the Steel Lotus allowed it to move with organic grace while maintaining the reliability of human engineering. They caught up to Kazuki's flagship just as it entered Earth's upper atmosphere. The massive bioship was larger than anything humans had ever built, its living hull pulsing with the power needed to crack a planet's crust. "Traitor Hae-won!" Kazuki's voice boomed across all communication frequencies. You have corrupted our ancient nobility with human weakness. Watch as I cleanse this infection from the galaxy. The only infection here is your hatred, Heiwan replied, opening her ship's main hatch and stepping into space. Her transformation was magnificent. Her true form expanded to match the flagship's size, wings of pure energy stretching across kilometers of space. But instead of the destructive power Kazuki wielded, her presence radiated protection and compassion. You've forgotten how to be strong without being cruel, she called to the warlord. Let me remind you. The battle that followed was like nothing in recorded history. Dragon fought dragon in Earth's sky, one wielding the power of destruction, other the power of creation. Where Kazuki's attacks scarred the atmosphere, Heiwan's counters healed the damage. Where his energy beams sought to kill, her shields protected. Below them, humans emerged from their cities to watch in amazement as their ancient myths came to life above their heads. Dragons were real, and they were fighting to protect Earth. Taimin flew the Steel Lotus in support, using the ship's hybrid systems to disrupt Kazuki's targeting and provide tactical advantages to Heiwan. But as the battle continued, he realized something important. Heiwan was not trying to defeat Kazuki. She was trying to save him. Why? He asked over their private communication link. Because that is what strength really means, she replied, even as she deflected another devastating attack. The power to choose mercy over vengeance, understanding over hatred. The moment of truth came when Kazuki, exhausted from the prolonged battle, made a desperate final attack. He gathered all his remaining energy into a single devastating beam aimed directly at Seoul, where 10 million humans lived their daily lives. Heiwan could have dodged, could have let the attack pass and then struck back at the vulnerable warlord. Instead, she threw herself directly into the beam's path. The energy that could have destroyed a city struck her full force. For a moment, Taimin thought she was gone, consumed by the attack she had chosen to absorb. Then her voice reached him, weak but determined. Now, do you see, Kazuki? This is what our people could be. Not conquerors, but guardians. The warlord's massive form hung motionless in space. When he spoke, his voice carried centuries of exhaustion. I had forgotten what we once were. Around them, the battle was ending. Kazuki's remaining ships were standing down, their crews unwilling to continue fighting after witnessing their leader's change of heart. The combined human Ryujin fleet maintained their positions, but weapons were powering down across the system. 6 months later, Taimin stood on the observation deck of New Terra Station, the first joint human Ryujin facility ever constructed. Through the massive windows, he could see Earth in the distance, still blue and beautiful, but now protected by guardians who remembered their true purpose. Heiwan approached him, moving carefully as she still recovered from her injuries. The battle above Earth had left her weakened, but also somehow more complete, as if absorbing Kazuki's hatred had purified them both. Any word from the outer colonies? She asked. 3 more systems have requested Ryujin Guardian partnerships this week, Taimin replied. Bora says the integration process is going better than anyone expected. And Kazuki? Taimin smiled. Still in meditation with Elder Sujin. Apparently, unlearning 3,000 years of military doctrine takes time. They stood together in comfortable silence, human and dragon, watching ships from dozens of species come and go from the station's docking bays. The galaxy was changing slowly but surely, as the truth about cooperation spread from system to system. Do you miss it? Heiwan asked eventually. The simple life of a salvage mechanic? Taimin considered the question. His days were certainly more complicated now, serving as humanity's first dragon liaison and helping to establish protocols for interspecies cooperation. But as he looked at Heiwan's peaceful expression and thought about all the lives they had helped save, he found his answer. No, he said. I found something better than simple. I found home. Haywan smiled, her golden eyes reflecting the lights of 100 different worlds represented in the station around them. Yes, home is not a place. It is the people who choose to stand beside you when the universe grows dark. Outside the windows, human and Ryujin ships continued their patrols together, guardians of a galaxy that was finally learning that difference could mean strength rather than division. And at the center of it all, a mechanic and a dragon who had chosen love over fear, proving that the greatest adventures begin when someone decides to help a stranger in need. The age of cooperation had begun.